The Weekly starts now.
We're here today with three of what I would consider some of the most brilliant and eloquent minds and articulators in the remodeling industry. We got Brian Gottlieb, infamous owner, well, infamy actually is a bad word. We'll just say famous owner of Tundra Lane Home Improvements out of Wisconsin. I know you do work in Arizona. Brian, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
We also have Bill Baldwin with us, who heads up Hartman Baldwin, a design build in California. Bill, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
And Michael Anschel, head of Atagawa Anschel Design Build in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And as you can all see, Michael is out in the wilderness looking great. Michael, thank you so much for taking the time.
Great to be with you guys.
So today we want to talk about basically how 2020 has influenced how you're looking at 2021 and where your priorities are for 2021.
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. It's a good bunch of people here. So, look, I think we've emerged from 2020 stronger than when we went into it. Our entire leadership team, our entire team has a PhD in crisis management now, and that gets you pretty far. So look, but I think we've always believed that operational excellence can be a point of differentiation. I think now more than ever, look, I think we're all surrounded by competitors that have grown their business, but might not know how to manage scale and might not know how to manage rapid growth. And that creates real opportunities if you already know how to scale. So I'm excited about what 2021 brings. I think just by simply focusing on, keeping a nice low lead time for the customer, taking great care of the customer with consistency, I think it's going to be a fantastic year.
Excellent. And we'll come back on some of those scaling issues and whatnot that you brought up. Bill, if you want to kick us off with that, keep it going.
I think I'm going to try. We're trying to take advantage of the world being jarred loose and all the flexibility and creativity. I mean, every man, woman, and child in America has been taken out of their game. And I think some things like ball games and concerts will come back the way they were. But I think we're in a unique moment of kind of creativity. And I'm trying to leading edge, lagging edge. I've got everybody looking at flexibility and creativity right now. I'm trying to figure out how to harness that so that we can move the company forward. So that's really a huge focus for us.
Excellent. That's actually, that will be a good future segue into talking about sort of what opportunities I think 2021 created for everyone in the remodeling industry. Michael, what is Atagawa Anschel looking at this year? What are you guys hoping to achieve?
Well, we're looking at a large workload, more than we've seen in years past. We've got a pretty epic volume that's coming in of projects on a scale that is larger, with the same demographic that we worked with previously, which is presenting us with some really unique opportunities for larger market capture. And I think Bill nailed it there when he talked about flexibility. I think last year was all about reacting to crisis and trying to figure out a path forward. This year, we're reacting to huge opportunity and huge growth, still without any of the normal predictive measures that we would typically have in place. Still not able to have like a system that we capture or a way of doing that we can rely on.
Well, so Michael will probably be cutting in and out, but we'll just keep on moving on, and then when he hops on, we'll give him a chance to talk.
We're going to have to break that flexibility right now.
Yeah. So Michael, if you didn't catch that, we're just gonna keep on moving on to the questions. When you have a good connection, you just chime in, my man.
Cool.
So one of the things that you guys have all brought up is the sort of flexibility, whether it becomes like scaling or having to sort of act on the fly, because obviously it was so hard to predict so many things that happened last year. In terms of listening to your employees and sort of mining them for ideas, because I think like it was really it was really brought into the spotlight how important sort of innovation and good thinking was last year. So have you just developed any new ways to sort of communicate with your team in 2021 that you think is going to like help you guys grow? Are you mining ideas from your people rather? And if we could just keep going around in the circle, Brian, if you want to start.
Yeah. Well, so I think one of the principles of our business is, and again, it's the risk of any company trying to grow, is that when a company grows, right, all of a sudden now you need to have more systems in place, right? So, and then you have to have more people to manage those systems. Then you have to have more processes, and on and on and on. And you start to get layers in your business, and your org chart starts to get really, really steep. What happens, the steeper your org chart gets, two things happen. The first thing is the further the owner or the managers are away from the customer. And the further you are away from the customer, the more out of touch you are with ways to innovate. Innovation happens when you're close to the customer. The other thing that often happens is, we tend to train frontline people really well, whether they're the builders or the salespeople or the marketers, and they're all scripted and all that. But who gets denied is that frontline manager. And you think about the same passion and enthusiasm you have for training the frontline people, and apply that to what are really the right behaviors of a manager, and how do I teach that and hold accountable to that and all that kind of stuff. So I think that's kind of I think those are really the two big things that are both a risk but also an opportunity.
Talking about like training those sort of leaders, did you? And this is a question open to the whole group. Was there any characteristics that you saw in your sort of employee leaders that you found particularly important last year that you like now have a new appreciation for maybe?
Mm-hmm. Bill?
I will tell you that we unfortunately have had a number, no one in the company, but a lot of family members of people in the company who were lost from COVID. So hospitalizations, and to see the strength of those people, both in their personal lives and at work, and the strength and the bond of our company around those people was probably the most formative thing that happened to us this year. I mean, we're going to emerge, even though remoted, we have a design business completely remoted, but even though we remoted, I think that we miss each other in physical connection. I think we're a much stronger company coming through what were just incredible challenges that were just breathtaking and hard to imagine. That was a single defining event in our culture this year.
Yeah, and so for me, leadership isn't about title or position. Leadership is about you're a leader when you help inspire and encourage others to realize their full potential. And that title is open to anybody that wants it. So what 2020 exposed are the future leaders of the company, people that rose to the occasion, that always kept a positive attitude, that brought other people up. And again, it created an opportunity to create new positions and new leaders inside the organization.
And speaking of opportunities, to go back to one of Bill's earlier points, the idea that 2020 and the sort of chaos and oddness of the whole economy and of course remodeling industry, is there any opportunities that you guys discovered last year as a business that you're going to be able to seize on hopefully in this year? Michael, if you want to chime in, you haven't been able to talk for a minute.
Yeah. Well, as long as my connection stays with me, the virtual meetings, virtual closings, the ability to move through a design process with a client with screen sharing, to move through estimating and through screen sharing has really made us much, much more efficient than we ever thought we could be. We can burn through what would previously have been a 4 or 5 month design process, in 3 months by having meetings every week and having more frequent updates. But the role of technology in our process has changed us in a way that we're not ever going to go backwards. I think that for us that's one of the things that COVID brought to our firm was greater efficiency, and also maybe a greater appreciation for people working remotely, and the way in which we manage.
Can anyone else relate to that sort of sense that technology changed for you, or did you see any other opportunities, Brian, maybe, and something that 2020 created?
I think we've learned, again, we were pretty fortunate that when COVID hit, we already had a very sophisticated phone center that, because the vision was a few years ago that what if we could replicate our call center and have people working from home? I mean, how much easier would that be? So, we were already down that road when we had to go remotely. We were able to go remotely within just a couple of hours, and our 40 people in our call center are now working from home. But what it did teach us is what we knew we could do that. What we didn't know and what we've learned is there's some challenges. Look, you come into, we've got 450, 500 employees. When you come into our building pre-COVID and we're onboarding a new hire, and I'm giving them a tour of the place, or somebody's giving them a tour, there's enthusiasm, there's excitement, there's energy. You're happy to be part of that culture. When you're hiring somebody remotely and onboarding them remotely, that whole onboarding process, it's changed, it's different. So we had to reinvent even the onboarding process of what our business looks like. But, I think along with that is that, it's allowed us to say, okay, we've always run out of parking. That was like the first problem in our business. There's no place for anybody to park. So working remotely allows us to scale also, but it also really does allow us to say, okay, single mom working from home wants to pick up a couple of hours a week working, that's a great candidate for us today. So it's actually widened the pool. And by the way, they don't have to live in Wisconsin. They can live in Alaska and they can still work for us remotely. And that's a big deal.
Has technology helped you, or I guess has changed your expansion plans, or for anyone, if you guys are thinking about maybe growing your business, does remote work make it a little bit easier to grow your market size?
Yeah, I mean, you guys were talking about hires, right? I feel like based on what we've gone through, we can now hire talent from anywhere comfortably. If we want to hire an architect out of Michigan, if we want to hire a designer out of California, we want to, I feel like that's not a limit to what we do anymore. And that to me is that's radically huge. That completely changes how we hire and who we hire.
Yeah, I agree with that. And that's the thing about what's happened here. It's turned everything askew. All kinds of sacred cows have fallen. The way we present information to our clients, the way we relate to our employees, where people can be when they work, all this stuff is, it's new again in a way. Like I say, even the lagging edge of my organization that doesn't want to change, they've changed now. Everybody, all of us have had to. And so the possibility of us, all expanding, getting better, and killing sacred cows and moving into new stuff, I think it's a ripe opportunity. This crisis does that for people. It makes you stronger if you can come through it, no doubt.
It sure does. And I'll give you a pro and a con to this. So, we did an acquisition late last year. We acquired with Renewal by Andersen. We acquired another Renewal by Andersen location down in Milwaukee. So, in a post-COVID world, we actually had to integrate the business essentially remotely, and that was interesting, but it worked really well. Now, so there are a lot of things we can do remotely, but I'll tell you where I think we're at risk. Okay, I'll tell you where I think you're at risk. We're all at risk. Pre-COVID, you sit around a room, you're doing a creative marketing meeting, you're coming up with some ideas, you're going over stuff, you're brainstorming, everybody's talking, and then maybe a few people are going to go off in the other room and start riffing on it. Here, Zoom is interesting because it's a little harder to have that riff, that creative riff. That's the downside. The upside is, there are 4 boxes right now and everybody's got the same size box. So, the quiet person that wants to sit in a corner now has the same size box as everybody else on a Zoom meeting. But I do think from true innovation and the execution of innovation, I think there's a little bit of the riffing that is so healthy in a business that's a little hard to replicate.
Yeah, I think we're social animals. We need the time together. What's going to move forward to hybrid of both? We can embrace the flexibility, the remoteness, the instantaneous of it. Our clients are going to want this. They want portals where they can see this stuff at night. They want to be able to connect to us when they want. But I agree with you. A huge thing that's still lacking in my company is the synergy of walking through the halls, seeing somebody and saying, hey, I had an idea. What about? That's gone.
Right. That's right.
That's tragically gone.
That's right. That's right.
So is that to say that you will always keep a physical component to your guys' business so long as, I guess, health risks deem it possible?
So I would go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Well, okay. Yeah, we're always going to keep a physical presence. You have to. Again, if I want to have a meeting with Bill, okay, if I just want to kind of hang out with Bill, if I just want to tell him a joke or something like that, I can do that in the hallway. Now I've got to set up a Zoom meeting. Hey, Bill, how about you and I just get a Zoom meeting going and let's just kick back and chit chat for a while? Like, what kind of Zoom meeting? It's a weird meeting,
If you're gonna take that much time, Brian, it's got to be a good joke too, right?
So on Zoom, everything's agenda based. It's agenda based. And I think you get the best out of people when you get to free flow a little bit. So you got to have.
So Brian, I'm gonna take the opposite tack of that one, and I'm gonna say that, we're showing our age here a little bit, and that you know, yes, it's different, but it's different. And I think that's the biggest thing, is it's just different. I mean, there were guys who are like, I don't think I can close a lead virtually. And the first time I really applied myself, it's kind of like the first time I decided to charge the right amount of money for my services. And I was terrified the client was going to say no, and then they didn't blink an eye. It was the same thing. It was like, you know, closing an $800,000 lead. I thought, no way they're going to do that over a single 40-minute Zoom. And it was easy. It was just different. And I think that, you know, we've got Zoom rooms, and people, my team is used to logging in all the time. And it's very much like, it's not kind of always running in the background as something people jump in and out of. So, you know, we have a physical office, and there are certain members of our company that really jones to get back into that space to do that interaction. And there are other members of my team that couldn't care less, and they are happy to never ever set foot in our big office building ever again. And I think it's going to be about accommodating people. This is the year of people. Like last year was the year of like people dying and whatnot, right? And stress and reaction. And Bill's got like a Sacred Cow burger shop that's going to open up, and we're all going to talk about people for the next year, because we're going to have all this post-traumatic stress stuff that's going on. People, now that we're not in panic mode, adjusting, and it's going to boil down to, how do people function? Who are the social animals and who are not? And how do we create workspaces that support both, you know?
I agree with that. Although when you say I think we're showing our age, I think you're poking at Brian. I being older than you. But I agree.
That was a cheap shot.
It's all this stuff's going to come out as a high. Some old and some new. It's going to be, that's the thing. We're going to accommodate much more for individuals. And I think that's true with our clients. I think what's happening now is, you know, when at least when Brian and I got in this business, I mean, for me, a kitchen was a kitchen back in the 80s. Nowadays, I'm dialing in spaces for people in a very individual way. And people don't talk about resale as much. They want their space the way they want it. So the same thing you're talking about with our culture, it's true with our clientele as well. People want a very individualized experience now, and we have to accommodate that inside the company and out.
Yeah, and I still think it's about trust too, because I think more so than ever it's about trust. I still don't think most people want 3 or 4 contractors in their home to give them an estimate on something. They want one company that they believe in, that they trust, that they can do business with. And that's why I think community involvement is important. Taking great care of your people is important. It's all important. This is when it really shows up.
Our people are the only assets we have. That's it.
True.
So to change gears just a little bit, I had this meeting with a manufacturer the other day, and I won't say who they were, but they were talking about their siding division and their fencing division. And if you figure it out from that, that's not my fault. And they were talking about in as sort of 2021 and whatnot goes on, they want to start almost leveraging their divisions together for like a siding installer to add the service of also putting in fencing, which is not something a lot of siding installers do. And so in that vein, I was thinking to myself, well, does anyone see a need to add more services to their offerings, and so that they can make themselves a little bit more of an end-to-end supplier, and also just more valuable if there's another economic crunch? Have you guys considered what services or product changes you may make in this next year? And did last year influence it, or was it always something that you were planning?
So what I learned long ago, and it's, you know, the art of business is to strip out complexity. That's how you want to scale a business, by stripping away complexity and not adding more to it. So for me personally, our recipe is, how do we continue to strip out complexity and scale through simplicity? So you know, I could see it. We continue to add the same existing products into new markets, but the idea of trying to make our mix more complicated, yeah, I mean, it just becomes, again, to me, it's very disruptive for our business. So we're just gonna execute on what we do exceptionally well.
Yeah, keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah, we, you know, in design build, we're trying to surround our client. I joke that, you know, we do everything, wash their dogs and do their kids' homework. I mean, we're surrounding the client. But I agree that we're adding on things, and we've moved into interiors. But I agree with Brian that, you know, you do so, you can de-worsify as much as you can diversify. And when you add complexity onto it, it comes at a cost. So we're very careful about that and nudge into that area. But I think the whole idea of stripping the complexity of your organization that Brian's saying, I would agree with that 100%.
Michael, you looking to mix things up?
I'm thinking about it. I feel, when COVID hit, I hate to bring us always back to when COVID hit, but when COVID hit, and I was looking into this abyss as I, saw a couple $1 million worth of work disappear. And I thought, how the hell am I going to get inside somebody's house, right, for the next year? And we started going down these rabbit holes of developing new products, ways we could build offices on the site, without running into permit and zoning rules. And what we discovered is we had become very stiff. And there was this big loosening that took place, which I think ultimately was very healthy. And I don't know if it's so much about forecasting for the next recession, sometime in the next 2 or 3 years, where things start to wobble again, as much as it is remembering how important it is that we stay flexible and adept at change to make those adjustments, those 3 and 6 degree shifts that keep us running forward. And for sure, the complexity of a rigid system, right, where everything is known and scripted, like what Brian was getting at, to a system that is more like air traffic control, where there's a chaotic order, chaotic order, chaotic management system that allows for flexibility within parameters, so that we can adjust and bend more quickly than we did this last time. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's probably a big difference between like a design build and a specialty remodeler like us. Our model is, okay, how do we do 400 and 500 bath remodeling projects a month? And how do we hire young people and teach them in 3 weeks how to install it and teach salespeople how to sell it? And, so the minute you start to say, okay, let's start selling vanities and toilets and flooring, now we got to be experts in this stuff too. And by the time it runs through the organization, we tend to not be really good at anything. So, for us, but to everyone's point, and to Michael's point, it doesn't mean what operational excellence, you might define it differently tomorrow than you do today. And that's where how you approach business, I think, is always going to have to change.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're all kind of saying the same thing. You do need to be nimble. We all need to be nimble as possible, and we need to stay as smart as we can be from the lessons we learned with these things. I remember that back in the economic recession, we came out of it and we made so many moves, and I thought, God, if we just stayed that smart all the way through, but you get better and you stop to use those lessons, you're not quite as nimble. So I do think we all, regardless of whether and I think, Brian, you do need to streamline yours, and I think we need to be streamlined too. You need to be nimble. You need to be open to possibility. And you need to try to stay as smart as possible when you were really hungry and we went through a crisis. Hope I can hang on to that.
So we're running out of time, guys, and this stuff has been great. But to end it sort of on a light note, if we could just do one more time around the room, if you could just give me, what you're most excited about for this year, and you can interpret that question in any way you want to. So Brian, let's start with you.
So I'm most excited about the idea that I believe that when our community is at its best, that's good for me. When the business is at its best, that's good for me. I believe that for me to reach my full potential, other people have to first realize theirs. And the more I can help others realize their full potential, the more I'm able to realize mine. 2021 has created an opportunity to get a lot of people out of their comfort zone. 2020 has gotten a lot of people out of their comfort zone. And the more they get out of their comfort zone, the bigger their familiar zone becomes, which means the higher their full potential. It has been the past 11 months it's been challenging, it's been a struggle, but it has also been an amazing coaching opportunity to watch people grow. And that momentum into 2021, this is going to be a really fun year.
Excellent. Got me excited. Bill.
Yeah, mine's not too dissimilar to that. There's so much from my 17-year-old daughter who can't leave home, all the way through my family and organization. There's so much pent up energy and creativity that's ready to explode onto the world. And I think for us, our culture really has been forged again through all the crises it went through. So I'm excited about when the gates come open, when we get back to a newer normal, not the old normal, but when we get back into that, I'm excited for all of us, everybody around, the whole world, to be able to express all that energy and creativity and love for life, and to see that pour back out into the world. It's going to be a good time.
Yeah, I hope so. And Michael, if you want to end us off.
Sure. I mean, I feel like this year I already got 3 awesome powder days in, so I'm like, my excitement levels, we're good. I got another month and a half of skiing. I'm excited for that. I'm excited. I'm excited about some of the projects that we've seen appear recently that are really forward thinking. Clients who are really looking to do things where I feel previously we'd have to try to talk them into it, and they're coming to the table like, let's do something big, let's tear down this house, and I want to build this and this and this. And I'm really excited about the energy that the clients are bringing to the table, and the kinds of crazy things we're going to get to build. That's what I'm most excited about.
Excellent. Well, hey, thank you everybody for joining. It was a huge pleasure. I really appreciate it. And Michael, especially taking time away from your family, I really appreciate it.
I will let them know they're sitting outside freezing.
Good seeing everybody.
All right,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Have a great rest of your weekend. Michael, have a great trip.